Today's show is brought to you by Black Dog LED, the industry's leading producer of LED lighting for cannabis and hemp cultivation. For over a decade, the research team at Black Dog LED has been helping to reshape cannabis cultivation by utilizing advancements in LED technology to improve efficiency and increase the quality and yield of every harvest. The team at Black Dog LED was recently awarded a Colorado hemp growing license, allowing them to conduct LED research on hemp in their new state-of-the-art 600 square foot research facility. The anticipated LED hemp growing technology breakthroughs are expected to have a profound impact on the hemp industry. To support expanding the scope of their research and their ambitious growth initiative, Black Dog LED is providing a limited time opportunity for investors to participate in their growth. If you'd like more information about LED cannabis growing technology, or if you'd like to know more about participating in Black Dog LED's continuous growth trajectory, you can contact them through their website, www.blackdogled.com. That's www.blackdogled.com. Black Dog LED, advanced LED technology that provides horticultural innovations.
Yeah, like CBD, it's real expensive. You get 6 to 10% absorption, that's about it. It just goes right through. So if we could take you up like 6x above that, even 10x in some of these delivery systems, all of a sudden, wow. And it's not just how much more you get in, but it's how fast you get it in. The usual digestion, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to peak, depending on how the edible is. Now we're talking 15, 20 minutes to peak.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. Today on Raising Cannabis Capital, we are joined by Christopher Slade from Quicksilver Scientific. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey there, it's good to be here, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here with us, and I want to give our listeners a heads up that I've decided to take a little longer on this episode because there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm interested about, and I don't want to cut Chris short because there's a lot to talk about. Chris grew up in Bethlehem, PA. For those that don't know, Bethlehem was like the second largest steel producing city in the world, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the smokestacks are just pounding out all this toxic stuff into the air, and if it's in the air, you're breathing it. And a lot of this stuff, your bodies just can't flush out. And so over time, all these bad toxins start to accumulate. What happens when these toxins accumulate in your body, and what types of toxins can accumulate in your body?
Well, there's all kinds of toxins that'll accumulate in your body. Here we're talking dominantly about metals, and metals build up in your body heavily, and whether it's from exposure from being in a steel town, or whether it's from mercury from your dental fillings. I had a lot of that, or mercury in fish, or arsenic in the water, or lead paint. You and I were exposed to a lot of that. These things build up, and they really affect a lot of the generation of energy in the body. I call it the lead blanket. It holds you down. It holds down how much energy your cells can make. It holds down glands like your thyroid that help you generate energy. It holds down your adrenals and your kidneys from generating energy. And it gets in your brain, and it screws with the brain chemistry, so your cognition isn't as sharp. You're more prone to anxiety and depression. So all of that is creating a limitation on how optimally you function.
That's so weird. I'm sure a lot of people just assumed that was a function of getting old, but it may just be a function of their environment. Yikes.
It's both, really. As you get old, you become less resilient against them. Okay. And so, if you're really cranked up, you can deal with a certain amount of toxins. And as you age, your biochemistry can't deal with so much. At the same time as you age, you're building up a big load. So there's this threshold where the load overtakes your ability to accommodate it. And that's when you really start feeling it. It'll always slow you down a little bit, but there's a point at which it really gets on top of you.
I mean, I feel it. We're in the same age range. I know what you're talking about. I know you kind of used your own self as your test lab. And as you figure things out for yourself, you sort of develop products or protocols, which you shared with other people. What have you come up with to remove these bad toxins?
The ironic thing, I was getting my PhD and I was studying mercury in the environment. So I'm measuring mercury in little bugs and fish and birds and talking about how it's affecting them. And I look in my mouth and I'm like, I got about 3 grams of mercury in the fillings of my mouth. This is the stupidest thing in the world. And I noticed all these PhDs that I'm working with, they're like, yeah, they probably don't matter. I'm like, all this mercury in my mouth doesn't matter, but we're worried about a nanogram of it in that lake over there. So I developed this system for amplifying what's called the glutathione system. Glutathione is this super antioxidant, chemoprotective detoxification thing that you make in your cells. And it's got all these enzymes with it that link and grab onto metals and then transporters that take this glutathione metal conjugate out of the body. And I just learned how to make all that work and just get your body to naturally dump it. It's one of the things your body's supposed to be doing, but it kind of deprioritizes it. It's trying to keep up with all the different things. It's like trying to pay bills. You only have enough to pay a certain amount of bills, so you start not paying off certain credit cards and stuff, and soon you're underwater. You're upside down in your energy generation. So I developed this whole system, but the key to making it all work is I had to get a delivery mechanism.
Okay.
Delivery is how you get it from outside the body to inside. And even a capsule is a delivery, but it sucks. And so we had to make these things called liposomes and lipid nanoparticles that were so effective that these compounds like glutathione, or in the cannabinoid world, CBD, THC, they absorb right through your mouth. You take them in as these liquids and they just passively absorb right through the mucous membranes, right into the capillaries. And you can measure this stuff in your blood in as little as 2 minutes. So it was a real game changer for us. And it enabled this detoxification system to work beautifully. And then when legalization happened and CBD showed up, I just pulled that right into that format. And it was a game changer for cannabinoids too.
This is the big problem that most cannabis companies run into, is that your own body flushes out a lot of the active ingredients just in the digestion process. So you take so many milligrams of something, but you flush them right out.
Yeah, like CBD, it's real expensive. You get 6 to 10% absorption. That's about it. It just goes right through. So if we could take you up like 6x above that, even 10x in some of these delivery systems, all of a sudden, wow. And it's not just how much more you get in, but it's how fast you get it in. The usual digestion, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to peak, depending on how the edible is. Now we're talking 15, 20 minutes to peak. Now it's a totally different game. You get it immediate and you get it high. So, it used to be you're smoking it and there's problems with that. You can't really meter how much you're taking in, or you're eating it and it just takes forever and it never goes away.
And a lot of people
24 hours later, you're still freaking wasted.
Because they take too much and they're like, this isn't working. Take a little more. It's not working. Take a little more. And bam, they hit them all at once. And then you're working with a lot of cannabis companies right now.
We have patents and trademarks and various trade secrets. So there's a lot of intellectual property around it. And so we end up licensing it out to partners in the THC world or private labeling in the CBD world. Some of these are these sublinguals like we do with the Wana Quick tinctures. Some of them are using this technology for beverage applications like Trust Beverages, the joint venture between Hexo and Molson Coors. And that's been a really exciting one, making all these beverage additives and beverages, because this same liquid that we're taking for the intraoral delivery is also water dispersible. And so it makes these clear beverages with the same onset and offset as alcohol. That was really the challenge that these companies faced, is how do we substitute this for alcohol and have the same social experience that the drinkers are having? And we were able to come through with that.
Attention Cannabis Podcast listeners. You can now listen to your favorite cannabis podcast ad-free with the MJBulls mobile app. Just download the free MJBulls mobile app to your smartphone to start enjoying cannabis podcasts with no commercials. Go to Apple Apps or Google Play to get the MJBulls Cannabis Podcast app today. I've been thinking about this since I realized that we were going to talk, and I was doing some research on you, that COVID-19, this must be on the top of everybody's mind right now, because they're thinking, how can I boost my immunity? What can I do to make myself resistant to the virus? I got to assume that this has been good for your sector of the industry.
Yes, the supplement industry has boomed. When you look through everything that's coming out around this, the only useful interventions have been really natural ones. These different vitamins, these different herbs, these different hormones have been really instrumental in making people either more resilient or less impacted by these hyperinflammatory syndromes that come with COVID. There's this runaway inflammation that happens. And one of the things that blocks it really, really well is melatonin, this thing you take for sleep. It's one of the few things they've had that works for it. Vitamin D, really exceptional at increasing people's immunity and their ability for the lungs to deal with these attacks. Vitamin C, that's been a huge one. Herbs like elderberry. So the whole industry has been really good and really benefited from this. And we did as well. We sold a lot in March and April. We fast-tracked a lot of the immune products that we were going to bring out in the fall and early winter, sped up the R&D, and we have a bunch of those coming out now so that these things don't get you and take you down.
I didn't think about it beforehand, but it makes perfect sense. The whole world is where top of mind. Everything you hear is this. Of course, you want to be more healthy. And
that's really all that you can do. And when you look like the people who are taking this the worst, who are getting really sick, and it's reason why it's the older generation, and the ones that are young have the same susceptibilities. They're all cardiometabolic things, like people with diabetes or pre-diabetes called insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, people with cardiovascular issues. These are the ones who were hardest hit by this. And so all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I got to get myself back in shape. I got to start eating better. I got to lower all these risk factors because they're all lifestyle risk factors.
Yeah, it makes sense. Right now you're staring at this huge opportunity with cannabis because there are so many companies that could use your tech right now. There's so many companies. You also have these new products in your pipeline that you're trying to rush to get.
Yep.
Are you doing this all out of cash flow, or are you going to start raising money? I mean, how are you going to pay for all this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we're in the middle of a build out. So yeah, we're using cash flow to drive this, but we are looking for the right partners. We can fast forward all of these growth potentials, maybe recapitalize the cap table, and really take the money to take off, because there is all this opportunity now. And the more we can pour into it, the faster we can grow that.
Well, that's exciting. And I suspect that a lot of our listeners right now are turning up their radio because they want to, maybe find out more about it. I'll have all of Chris's information in the show note, and at MJBulls.com. And remember, the name is Quicksilver Scientific. And I'm sure if anybody wants any more information, they can reach out to Chris directly. But Chris, this is good stuff. And I'll have to have you on again. We'll get into it a little bit deeper.
I'd love to, Dan.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Today's show was made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, like Alt36, the country's premier blockchain payment processing platform that's providing dispensaries and its customers with a safe and secure payment option other than cash. To learn more, go to alt36.com.
This is Joy Beckerman, and I want to invite everyone interested in the silver bullet of cannabis reform to tune into Hemp Barons on Wednesday, August 12th for the first of a critical 3-part series on the bedrock of near global cannabis prohibition, which is actually at the International United Nations level, and it's a global treaty called the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. If you want to be empowered with this essential knowledge, listen on the MJ Bulls mobile app or wherever you listen to podcasts.